What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ben on Sports with the weekly NASCAR preview, power rankings, everything all encompassing here in one shot. This week, NASCAR is in Watkins, Glen. So let's get into some of these storylines. William Byron finds victory lane for the first time since the Daytona 500 at the start of the year, and he takes back the points lead from Chase Elliott. Big weekend for William Byron, finally on the right side of a fuel strategy race. Congratulations to William Byron getting his second win of the season. Brad Keselowski's looking really good, and he almost won. Could have really thrown a big monkey wrench into the playoff picture if Brad Keselowski gets the win. But just didn't quite have enough time, I think, to catch William Byron. After all those cautions and all the fuel saving, William Byron was able to get a gap and then keep it. Brad Keselowski did win both stages and finish third. There's still some tracks left he's good at. Maybe he's getting momentum at the right time to win his way in. The regular season championship is heating up. I said that last week, but we just, while there's not four drivers within 20 points anymore, they still are within one race of each other, and they're switching back and forth positions a lot. Denny Hamlin made up ground on Kyle Larson, but lost ground to William Byron. Denny Hamlin, obviously, I mentioned him because he's the one driver trying to throw a wrench into Hendrick Motorsports, finishing 1, 2, 3 in the regular season standings. I think that the short track racing still needs a little bit of work. It's still so hard to pass. And that's not necessarily at the short tracks, but the short tracks will become so much better when you can't just completely aero block somebody. And that's why I think this next-gen car desperately needs a change. It is beyond tires, NASCAR. Mess around with the horsepower. Mess around with lowering the cars and trying to change the way you put downforce on it. Do something, because the current product isn't working on too many tracks. And I feel like the last month or two, it's been a lot of, we're going to save fuel, or, we're going to do this, or, we're going to do this. Please make changes. I don't want to have this many fuel racing races. I don't want to have this many races where somebody that's a half a second slower a lap can just aero block somebody for 10, 15 laps. It's ridiculous, and I desperately think it needs change. Because in a lot of other ways, the series could be really healthy right now. This car has just not been good, arguably since that first season, maybe the first half of the first season, and it doesn't seem like it's getting better in a lot of ways. Carson Hocevar, guys, what a shocker! Has a new name from Lee Diffie, Hurricane Hocevar. Not the first time the word hurricane has been used to describe a race car driver, but yeah, getting involved with it again. Obviously, you saw the member of Todd Gilliland's crew talking to him after the race. Eventually, Hocevar is going to learn. And I think sometimes he's not helping himself with his antics on social media either. Eventually, I think he's going to learn. But until he does, it's going to be rough for him. Let's say he wins a race this year or even next year and he still has the same attitude. There's going to be a lot of people in the garage making sure he can't make a playoff run. And aren't going to make it easy when they're racing around him. Hocevar not doing himself favors, and at this point, everything he does is going to be highly under a microscope. Just like some other drivers that are currently in NASCAR as they were coming up, and he has to be aware of that. And it seems to me that he's almost okay with it in a lot of ways. And more playoff format drama. I saw it all over social media this week discussing the playoff format. Again, you guys kind of know my thoughts and feelings. It desperately needs change. It's not an accurate representation of the sport. I don't think it's true to the sport's core, to its heart. There's a lot of ways in which this playoff format needs to be improved. But yet again, it's just, I feel like the last couple weeks, it's just been, you have Fox talking about it with their crew, and then good old Larry gets into it, and Mark Martin thinks he's talking about him, but he's not. And then Dan Hamlin said, he's talking about me because he's talking about a championship-less driver. That's not Mark Martin, it's me. Denny Hamlin throwing his hat in there, Jordan Bianchi, Jeff Gluck. It's a whole thing. And you can say, I like the chaos. It doesn't matter, guys. This is not a good playoff format, especially with the cars not being able to be raced very well. where track position and fuel saving is more important, has been way more important than it used to be. Not that track and position is never unimportant, but used to be able to pass guys easier. At least I feel like. Yeah, I don't know. This playoff format isn't it. There's a lot of arguing and discussing and debating around NASCAR. NASCAR seems hesitant to change certain things, so I don't know what's going on. But I definitely think, if nothing else, even if you want to keep the format, all of this discussion and bad press about it, in a lot of ways, is probably not good for the sport. Let me know in the comments section what you guys would do to change the playoff format, or let me know if you like it the way it is. History at Watkins Glen. There's only been 3 next-gen races at Watkins Glen in the next-gen car. Kyle Larson won 1, William Byron won 1, and then Chris Buescher with that memorable win with the last lap pass over SVG last year. Best average finish, Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, and Austin Cindric. There's a lot of asterisks here. You can see I have SVG with 2, Hocevar with 3, Zane Smith with a 5th, and Noah Gragson with an 11th. Those would all technically be average finishes, but I'm not really counting them because all those 4 drivers only have 1 next-gen race at Watkins Glen, and it was last season. Everybody else in this list has had 3, and I don't think it's fair to say, oh, you have a really good average if you have 1 race there. Maybe we'll see what happens this week, and maybe they'll be there before the next next race at Watkins Glen. But that is why I have those guys listed there, just to let you guys know there were 4 guys last year who finished well, albeit in their first attempt. Most top 5s in the 3 races. AJ Allmendinger, the only person with 2, and then 13 drivers have top 5s. Shane van Gisbergen, Carson Hocevar, Zane Smith, Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs, Chase Elliott, and William Byron. And then most top 10s, well, Chris Buescher, the guy with the best average finish, is the only driver to get a top 10 all 3 races here, followed with 5 guys tied at 2, AJ Allmendinger, Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, and Michael McDowell. Who are my favorites to win this week? My team rankings, Trackhouse, obviously number 1. Hendrick, number 2. They've won 2 of the 3 next-gen races. They always have speed. Joe Gibbs, I have right there with Hendrick. I think both of those teams can have 2 or 3 drivers in the top 10 this week. 23XI, Bubba Wallace seems like he's doing better on road courses. Tyler Reddick's one of the best drivers in NASCAR on road courses. And then RFK has been stinky good, and this is one of the 2 road courses where Brad Keselowski has experience. But outside of them, Chris Buescher has been really good here, as the numbers have showed. And Ryan Preece has been a good road course racer this year, and seems to really found something with RFK. A couple other teams, really only one that I want to mention. I do expect to see Spire be fast. They've brought a lot of speed on road courses this year. They were just off the list. Driver rankings. Shane van Gisbergen got to be the favorite on road courses. He's won 3 road courses in a row. Won a lot of stages. Shane van Gisbergen, definitely the heavy favorite. Chris Buescher, the guy who won here last year over SVG, in second. Chase Elliott, a guy with 2 wins here, albeit doesn't have a road course win in the next gen, but still fast. Chase Elliott in third. Christopher Bell has a road course win this year. He's been one of the more consistent guys in the next gen. Chase Briscoe. He's been second 3 of the last 5 races. He's had speed at all the road courses this year. The finishes haven't always added up, whether it's wrecks or whatever you want to say, or bad luck. Flat tire at the Chicago Street Course. He's been fast at every road course. He's had speed at every road course. I have Chase Briscoe as the 5th place. This is my 5th most likely driver at this track. Connor Zilic is getting another shot this week. Very memorable Xfinity drive at Sonoma to beat Shane van Gisbergen at Sonoma in the Xfinity Series. Supposed to be a really good road course guy at the ripe age of 19. He's going to be in Trackhouse racing equipment. I look for Connor Zilic to be fast. William Byron has had a lot of speed at different tracks this year, and he hasn't been able to finish probably where he deserves. He finally did last week, won a race where he had speed. Maybe that's going to start a hot streak for William Byron on a track he's won at before. Tyler Reddick would usually be higher up on this list. Okay, Tyler Reddick's been really good. He just feels like Tyler Reddick is in a slump. Maybe this week is the week he busts the slump. But, I mean, he's had finishes worse than where it should be based on speed. He's bringing speed to the racetrack, and it's a lot of times unlucky strategy, bad strategy, or getting involved in wrecks. Just because he's cold, I'm putting him at 8. But Tyler Reddick probably deserves to be higher on this list. Ty Gibbs has bought road course speed at every road course this year. He's with Joe Gibbs. You know Joe Gibbs is going to have a good road course speed. Look for Ty Gibbs to be fast this week. He also needs a win to get in. And in a very similar boat, Kyle Busch has been really good on road courses. I would say Kyle Busch's best average finish this year, I believe it has been on the road courses. He desperately needs a win to make the championship or make the playoffs. Kyle Busch also has won at this track before, albeit a long time ago. Can Kyle Busch find some speed this week? I do want to mention one more driver that is in a win-to-get-in scenario. Michael McDowell. He's been one of the most consistent guys on road courses for a couple years now, and it seems that speed has followed him from front row to Spire. I look at Michael McDowell just off this list, just because he's had some unlucky and he's a little bit cold. If it wasn't for Connor Zillage being here with Trackhouse, maybe he'd be there. I also want to mention Ross Chastain, who was the pole sitter here last year and has speed. And again, he's with Trackhouse, who always seems to bring fast cars at road courses. So even though I don't have him in my top 10, Ross Chastain and Michael McDowell are guys I would keep an eye on this week as well. Regular season standings, as I already said, William Byron passing Chase Elliott for first place. Chase Elliott went from up on William Byron to minus 18. Kyle Larson dropping back from minus 15 to minus 45. Denny Hamlin dropping back from minus 20 to minus 51. Those top 4 are still kind of close together with 3 races left, and at 3 very different tracks, a road course, a short track, and a super speedway. Anything could happen between those guys. But William Byron, after that great week last week at Iowa, is in the driver's seat. And Chase Elliott is probably the only guy that can pass him with one good week, assuming William Byron doesn't have a great week in return. Christopher Bell, still kind of fighting with Tyler Reddick. I don't know. Well, yeah, you know what? I'm going to say it. I think Ryan Blaney could make it as high as 5th on this list. So Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick, they did have a big cushion between 7, 8, and 9, and it's slowly kind of withering away because guys like Ryan Blaney and Chase Briscoe are having really, really good weeks, and even Alex Bowman quietly doing well. So, if Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick aren't careful and they can't right the ship and get going again, they're going to be under assault from the guys behind them. Tyler Reddick is losing points to the playoff cut line little by little. Good thing he had a big gap. He's still 6th in regular season points, which is still a pretty good position despite his struggles. But Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick, while they're less than 100 points away from first, they're also on a cold streak. Probably not realistic they can catch Byron. But they need to worry about trying to stay where they are in the point standings because you get more playoff points for being in the top 10 every position, and then the top 2 get 15 and 10, which is why this top 4 is going to be interesting because first pays 15, second place pays 10, third pays 8, and fourth pays 7 playoff points. And all of those guys are in the mix, and all of them would love to get those extra playoff points, especially when you see the playoff points here in a little bit. But I digress. This top 4 is interesting. The 5 and 6 have kind of been isolated, but no more. Ryan Blaney is right there within 19 points of Christopher Bell, and Chase Briscoe isn't too far behind either. Briscoe is only 25 back of Blaney and is one of the hottest drivers in NASCAR right now, and he's only 33 back of Reddick. So Briscoe may be saying maybe we can make a run and get up there. Bowman, I think he might be a little bit too far back to catch those guys, but if Briscoe starts slacking off, Bowman can certainly catch Briscoe for an extra point. And then you have Bubba trying to separate himself, but Bubba, I think, is in the other group of guys. I think Bowman and Briscoe should be safe on that 10th place line. As long as they don't have 2 DNFs, I think they'll be able to continue to keep space between them and the guys behind them. But Bubba's trying to hold off Chris Buescher, Joey Logano, potentially Ryan Preece and Ross Chastain, right? Because that 10th place is worth 1 playoff point, and Bubba has it right now. He actually just passed Chris Buescher this weekend. Chris Buescher was there going into Iowa. Bubba Wallace has a wonderful drive at Iowa to go up into 10th. Kenny Odom to that 10th spot. He only has 7 points on Chris Buescher. While there may not be a whole lot of obvious battles going on around the track where you can see this stuff, there is a lot of really cool battles going on in the regular season standings. That's why I like to update you guys and explain why it's so important for these guys to get points. I mean, it's 7 points between Buescher and Wallace with 3 races left to see who can get the extra playoff point for being in the top 10. Then again, Joey Logano stays in 12th. Ryan Preece passes Ross Chastain. Too bad Ross Chastain has a win already and is locked in. If you're a Ryan Preece fan, if you're a Ross Chastain fan, that's a very good thing, because right now the difference between making and missing the playoffs is Chris Buescher and Ryan Preece on points. So Ross Chastain would be below the cut line if he didn't have that win. And then it kind of drops off again to another tier to Kyle Busch, Ty Gibbs, and Austin Cindric. Cindric obviously has a win and is in. AJ Allmendinger looking for a win this week. Brad Keselowski, after a great week last week, is in the top 20 for the first time in a very long time. And John Hunter Nemechek holding even at the 20th position where he was at the start of last week. Current playoff standings. You can see why I was talking about those regular season points. Right now, William Byron, who is tied for third, would be getting 15 extra playoff points, catapulting him all the way to 32nd. And Chase Elliott would be getting an extra 10, putting him in 16, giving him an extra 5 or so spots. You can see why this is so important to these guys. Kyle Larson would be getting 8, right? And Denny Hamlin would only be getting 7. So right now they're in a virtual tie for the most playoff points. That's why stuff like that, why that regular season battle is so important. I mean, even if you look down at some of these guys towards the bottom, Chase Briscoe is 8th in regular season points right now, but he's over Austin Cindric. Ryan Blaney is trying to catch Shane van Gisbergen for playoff points. Chase Elliott is going to go from tied for 11th in playoff points to potentially right now making a move towards the top 5, right? Assuming he gets another stage win or 2 or another race win. That's why it's so important. It can really help you pass a lot of guys at the start of the playoffs when you have a good regular season. That's why those races are so interesting to watch. As always, anybody who is in yellow already clinched the playoffs. Everybody in blue is in the playoffs on points because there's only been 13 unique winners this year. Everybody in red is out of the playoffs and either needs to point their way in or win their way in. And at this point in the season, it might have to be a win your way in for everybody except Ryan Preece. Brad Keselowski almost made it into the top 20 over Allmendinger, but he's still 3 back of AJ Allmendinger, the former champion Brad Keselowski. But he is a threat to win at least 2 of these 3 weeks. I mean, Kyle Busch could win. Ryan Preece has been really good on road courses. He was good at Richmond. Ty Gibbs is really good at road courses. So there's a lot of drivers below the cut line that could really shake it up with a win. And not that long ago, Tyler Reddick was 150 points to the good. Now he's only 122. That's why you build up the big buffer. Bowman has a decent-sized buffer. Really, the battle right now is between the RFK cars of Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher. I don't know if anybody else below Ryan Preece can point their way in. Preece definitely can, but I think everybody else that is out of the playoffs and currently wants in is going to have to find a win in the last 3 races. Driver power rankings. I am not going to explain the colors because the colors have not changed since last week. If you want to know what the colors on the power rankings mean, go back to last week's episode, watch it, like it, drop a comment, and then come back to this one and you'll know what the colors mean. William Byron moving up to first in the power rankings after a win this week, and now he's first place in the regular season points. Chase Elliott second, and really Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin kind of fell back from those guys. And you know, William Byron won. It's not like Chase Elliott had a great day, but it's been the same Chase Elliott all season. He finds a way to be okay in the end. I mean, Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin were both running top 10, edge of top 10 most of the day. Both have some issues, end up finishing outside of the top 20. Chase Elliott didn't do that. He found the way to still race around to a solid day. Ryan Blaney, fastest car on the track this week, ended up finishing 4th, got good stage points. He's up to 5th in the power rankings. Ryan Blaney, after that early and midsummer dip, seems like he's heating back up again. Gave him the edge over Christopher Bell, who is kind of a little bit in a rough patch right now, in my opinion. Chase Briscoe is still in 7th. Again, 3 out of the last 5 weeks, he has a top 2 finish. Honestly, the reason why I don't have Chase Briscoe higher on this list, I try not to be too overreactive, if that makes sense. Like some powering, he's like, oh, if a driver wins, he goes from 9th to 1st immediately. And in some senses, that makes sense, and there's not anything wrong with that. But in my opinion, it's like, we've been racing since February, and it is now August. There's a lot of other information we can take into account with this, and I think that the regular season standings are a part of this. Otherwise, I'd have him higher. And Chase Briscoe can, in his eyes, can probably still finish, best case scenario, 6th in the regular season. I just don't want Briscoe fans to be mad at me for having him 7th when he's one of the hottest guys in NASCAR. I just think that the start of the year, while it wasn't bad, wasn't as good as it could have been, and that's why I'm hampering him here with some of the guys above him who maybe haven't been as hot as of late. But they've been more consistent throughout the year and are in a better points situation. I do have Bubba Wallace at 8th because Bubba Wallace has been, as hot as Chase Briscoe is, Bubba Wallace is probably a little bit hotter, if for no other reason than he picked up the win at Indy. And then this week, multiple laps down and still finished 6th. Obviously, cautions help with that, but at some point it has to be pure speed and driver talent, and that's what Bubba did. Reddick dropping it really as low as he's been in a long time, all the way down to 9th. Reddick just has so much bad luck. Eventually, it's going to right the ship. Don't forget, guys, it's the same driver, same team, same car that won the regular season points championship last year. I still think Tyler Reddick has potentially multiple wins left in him, and eventually that luck is going to turn. Alex Bowman staying in the top 10 after a decent run this week. Just keep chipping away. Alex Bowman, quietly puts together good finishes, trying to stay in a good point spot. Joey Logano, an okay day, really. He was just, don't be worse than the people behind you in a couple ways. Joey Logano is 11th. Ryan Preece with a great day in a lot of ways. Still made up ground to the point line, the deficit he was in. Ryan Preece up to 12th in my power rankings. Buescher below his teammate in 13th. Not a great day for him points-wise compared to the playoff cut line, but he still has over 20 points. So as long as he has decent days or good days, it's going to be hard for guys to make up too much ground in one shot. Ross Chastain really, really struggling right now, dropping all the way to 14th, but I do have a little bit of gap between 14 and the rest of the pack. But if he doesn't want to use up the gap that I have built in there, he is going to need to get going soon. Austin Cindric, with a good week last week, trying to help right the ship. He's historically has been a good road course racer, even if it hasn't showed this year. Good week for him to get back on track. He's really good on super speedways. They got Daytona. Maybe Cindric can get some momentum moving before the playoffs come. Kyle Busch desperately needs a win. He's hanging around that 15-16 spot in points, which, if there wasn't a whole bunch of unique winners, would be a good thing because that means you're in a good spot for the playoffs. I think he's a little bit too far out in points unless disaster strikes got a person or two in front of him. Kyle Busch probably needs a win, but he's won at the tracks they're going to, so maybe there's some hope there. Ty Gibbs, I think it's too little too late. He, maybe didn't have the week he expected this week, but he still has had a pretty good summer. Again, I think he dug himself too deep of a hole, and it might be I don't know if he can get out of it without a win. Brad Keselowski appearing in the top 20 for the first time in a very, very long time. I don't think it's the first time of this season, but I know he left the top 20 pretty early. Really rough start for him. They got the speed back. They've been fast the last 2 or 3 weeks. Doesn't love road courses, but he should be fast at Richmond and Daytona. And Keselowski, if anybody, I honestly think out of everybody who's out of the playoffs, I think Keselowski might be the biggest threat to win his way in and really, really throw off the cut line. Josh Berry, another decent week. It could have been better, I think. I think he had the speed to be a little bit better. But again, they're avoiding catastrophic weeks, which have happened a lot. Although this week might be a catastrophic week. And John Hunter Nemechek just holding on. at the 20th position in my power rankings might be going out. Somebody's probably going out because if the SVG that showed up most of the year shows up, he's moving into the top 20 at minimum, and somebody else is going to be going out. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this week. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions, your hot takes in the comments below. Let me know who you think is the favorite to win the regular season points championship with 3 races left. Let me know if you think there's any surprise playoff guys coming, if there's any more winners, or unique winners, I should say. Thank you for taking time out of your days, weeks, and lives. Share this with a family member, a friend, somebody you know that likes NASCAR. Find a couch this week. Watch some sports. NFL preseason football is back. College football is almost back. MLB going down the home stretch. Watch some NASCAR when you're watching all of the rest of those things as well. Stay safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Peace out.